Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're here to do a comparison on the Meta Quest 3, as you guys are looking at here, and the new Meta Quest 3S that I received last week from Facebook and Meta, who sent this over for the purposes of me reviewing it for you guys. So I wanted to be upfront with that. I already did an unboxing on this as well. Obviously, this one was given to me by Facebook. The Meta Quest 3 is something I purchased, just like all the other headsets in the past that I purchased on my own. But I wanted to do a comparison for you guys because there's a lot of people out there who, are trying to decide which one they should get. Should they spend the $300 on the Meta Quest 3S? Should they get the Meta Quest 3 at $500? What are the differences between both of them? And is that extra money worth it? And that's what we're going to talk about, compare and contrast both of these headsets on all the differences and everything that's the same on both of these headsets, so you guys have a clear understanding and know which one may be right for you. And as always, guys, if you guys are looking to support this channel and you guys want to purchase your own of one of these, the links will be down below to purchase either a Meta Quest 3 or a Meta Quest 3S. It helps me and the channel using my affiliate link down below. But as usual, my opinions on everything here is my own. It always has been on this channel. I don't take any like sponsorships or anything like that unless if I actually like the product first. As you can see here, you won't believe all the crazy nonsense that I get in my emails all the time about what to promote next that I decline all the time. And obviously, it was a no-brainer to take this, partnership or whichever way you want to say with Meta, because I already own all of their headsets that have been in VR since the very beginning, ever since the DK2 days and the HTC Vive and the Valve Index and now the Big Screen Beyond, Meta Quest 1, 2, 3, the 3S. I've had them all, purchased every single one of them myself, except for the Meta Quest 3S that I got given to here that we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is, of course, the price on these. So the Meta Quest 3 here comes in at $499, and it gives you 512 gigabytes of space in that regard. Meanwhile, the Meta Quest 3S comes in at $299 and gives you 128 gigabytes of space, or you can get the $399 model, which gives you 256 gigabytes, which is the one I have here, and gives you that double storage, but it will go to $399. Now, in my opinion, when you're looking at both of these headsets, if you're trying to compare which one you should actually get, I wouldn't even be considering the one that's $400 for 256 gigabyte for the Meta Quest 3S, because I think that price is just way too close to the Meta Quest 3, which, as you will see throughout the video, is obviously, superior in some of the ways here. And for only $100 more, I'd be telling you guys to save your money and get the Meta Quest 3 if you're going to be that close. But when you're looking at these, I'd be looking at the $299 model, since that saves you $200, and obviously the 128 gigabyte model in that regard. Now, the biggest thing that makes this the same, and the reason that Meta obviously brought these out, is the fact that they both use the exact same Snapdragon GPU inside. The XR2 Gen 2 chip that's in there allows both of these headsets now to play the exact same games with each other. So before, people coming from the Meta Quest 2 and stuff, they were starting to stop support on some of the games that were coming out that were more graphically demanding, like Batman and stuff like that recently came out. So now, they have a headset out there now that it's still at that $300 price point that a lot of people liked the Meta Quest 2 at, but now they can still play the same games, and developers don't have to worry about like people missing out and stuff. And that's a great thing. So like I said, it's awesome that both of these use the same chip, so you're going to get the same performance, the same graphic fidelity when it comes to raw power, and the same multitasking capabilities. All that stuff will be there thanks to the fact that both of these are using the same chip. So it's obviously great news all around. Now, when it comes to pass-through on this, that's a very big feature on the 3S that just came out as well, compared to the Quest 2 that it obviously, replaced. And the pass-through on here is much improved. Not only is it color now, which is obviously a big deal, so you can use mixed reality and color, but when you compare both of these, they are pretty close. Obviously, they both have color pass-through, and they both have depth sensing as well. But the Meta Quest 3 uses hardware-related depth sensing, because there is a hardware in there to help with that depth sensing to figure out where things are, relative to where you're looking. And the one on the Meta Quest 3S uses software depth sensing, so there is a difference there. That's something else that they got rid of to bring that cost down. Now, for the most part, I think they're pretty close to each other, where I think most people are going to have fun playing mixed reality games no matter what. But when it comes to directly comparing them, the Meta Quest MetaQuest 3 is of course superior because of that hardware-related depth sensing, which makes the pass-through a little less blurry when you're using it compared to the MetaQuest 3S, but I think in the vast majority of use cases, people are going to be very, very happy with it, especially with that color pass-through, especially if you're coming from the MetaQuest 2. And I don't think it should be your deciding factor when it comes to which one you want to purchase. It's just slightly better on the MetaQuest 3 when it comes to being a little less blurry, but it is there and it's something to be pointed out. Now, the biggest difference between both these headsets is the lenses that they're using inside. The MetaQuest 3 uses pancake lenses, which are vastly superior to the Fresnel lenses that the MetaQuest 3S uses. The MetaQuest 3S is using basically the same lenses that are on the MetaQuest 2, so if you're used to that and you're coming to this, the lenses are going to be very, very similar to that. You're going to have those Fresnel lenses that, you know, are obviously a lot blurrier. They have a much smaller sweet spot compared to the MetaQuest 3. You know, the contrast isn't going to be as good. All the usual stuff that you're used to with the Fresnel lenses from the Quest 2 are going to be here. And with the pancake lenses on the MetaQuest 3, they're vastly superior. They're the main reason that you should decide to, if you're going to go from one to the other, as far as if you're going to spend the extra money. They're a night and day difference, for sure. When you put the MetaQuest 3 on as somebody who has both, I can easily tell how much better the colors are on the MetaQuest 3, how much less you know, blurriness around the edges, especially when you have that white on black contrast that a lot of people talk about with letters and stuff like that, is vastly superior on the pancake lenses. It's from like going from SD to HD, and it's like I said, a huge upgrade and a generational leap forward when it comes to lens quality. However, like I said, you only know that when you use it. I think if you were happy with the Quest 2 and you like the way that looks, and you're going to get this one, like I said, you're going to have the same experience, but just a better overall graphical experience because, like I said, you know, the graphics are obviously a lot more improved with that XR chip that's in there now, but the lenses are not going to be improved at all. But if you really want that generational leap when you put it on, when it comes to not just the graphics, but also the lens quality, then the MetaQuest 3 is definitely a big leap forward in that regard. The MetaQuest 3 also uses the same resolution that the MetaQuest 2 had, so you're going to have the same resolution of 1832 by 1920, which is the same thing that was on the Quest 2. So again, if you're used to that resolution, you're going to have a very similar style to here, but it is definitely lower than what it is on the MetaQuest 3. The MetaQuest 3 has 2064 by 2208, so the resolution is definitely bumped up, and it is noticeable when you put on the MetaQuest 3. You know, putting on that MetaQuest 3 and going back and forth like I have been with these headsets, you can definitely tell the resolution bump, and you can definitely tell that it's obviously better than what it is. It's not as vastly like a generational leap or anything like that, as opposed to the lenses that I was talking about before, but it is a nice noticeable bump up when it comes to that resolution. Now, when it comes to battery life, the MetaQuest 3S, even though it has technically a smaller battery life, inside of it compared to the MetaQuest 3, they actually pretty much both come out at the same exact battery, you know how long they last, 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on what's going on in your headset, is the standard on both of them. And I'm sure that that's because obviously the resolution is lower than the MetaQuest 3, and you know, it doesn't have the hardware depth sensor like I was talking about before. So naturally it's going to have, even though the battery is a little bit smaller, it's going to end up being really close to each other because of those differences. So battery life is not a concern. They're both pretty much on par. Now, on the MetaQuest 3S, you're going to have 3 different ways that you can adjust the actual depth sensor on here. You can move it 1 click, 2 clicks in the middle, and another click all the way to the right, and that gives you a range of IPD that you can physically move the lenses around in your headset. But as of a lot of people have said, the MetaQuest 3 is a little bit better than that because you can dial it in a little bit more, even though that has 3 different points where you can move it, which is what the MetaQuest 2 was. So again, if you were used to that and you're coming to this and you were fine with it and you know which one to put it at, then you're going to be right at home. But on this one here, you actually have a little dial here at the bottom of the headset, so you can actually move it around and get the exact same, you know, pinpoint lens that you want, whether it's 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, you know, your eyes being separated from each other. You're going to be able to get it a lot closer, like, to what you actually needed to. So if you're a person who was on the MetaQuest 2 and didn't find it as good because you wanted to dial it in a little bit more, the MetaQuest 3 is going to have that because you're going to be able to dial it into the incremental numbers as opposed to just 3 jumps on the MetaQuest 3S. Now, when it comes to the FOV on these things, the MetaQuest 3S is definitely a smaller FOV than the MetaQuest 3. That's probably obviously due to the pancake lenses that I was talking about, which are superior, which gives it a little bit bigger FOV than these Fresnel lenses that are being used on the MetaQuest MetaQuest 3S, roughly, because this changes a little bit on everybody, obviously, depending on if you're wearing glasses and how close you get your eyes to the lenses. You get 96 degrees horizontal and about 90 degrees vertical on the MetaQuest 3S. Now, when it comes through the MetaQuest 3, you get 110 degrees horizontal and 96 degrees vertical. So, like I said, that may vary a little bit depending on what you guys are, how close you guys can get your eyes to the actual lenses, but that's roughly what the numbers are. And regardless on how close you get your eyes on each one, you're still going to find the FOV to be slightly bigger on the MetaQuest 3. Now, obviously, it's not going to be this, again, generational leap where you're going to get this gigantic wow factor of how much bigger the FOV is, but it is a nice bump up when you're coming from one to the other. Now, as you can see here, the MetaQuest 3 is also, as far as the body is concerned, even though this did shave off a good amount from the MetaQuest 2, it's still a little bit bulkier on the actual framing on the MetaQuest 3S compared to what you can see here on the MetaQuest 3, where the MetaQuest 3 is a little bit slimmer. On the top here, has a nice better look to it. The MetaQuest 3 has that more, 3S has that like boxier look, and even though it did reduce the weight a little bit from the MetaQuest 2, it still has that boxy frame and stuff like that. So, not that it matters in any real way, but it is something to point out that they have a slightly different shape, and the MetaQuest 3 definitely has a nicer looking shape if that's something that you care about. Now, when it comes to the facial strap on these things and the facial interface on the inside, they both come with the exact same thing out of the box. You're going to have to replace both of them. I talked about this below, and you can use my links down below if you guys want to support the channel again. I have the Elite strap on this one here, as you guys are looking at. I've had it from the very beginning on the MetaQuest 3 with no issues. I've also had the silicone strap on the MetaQuest 3, and that's the one I recommend. I love the silicone strap. It feels really nice on my face, kind of has that leathery feel to it, as opposed to the clothy material that both of these things come with. I think that both these headsets, like I said, need to be replaced immediately. The strap that they both come in the box are both the same, and I don't like them at all. I replaced them immediately, and most people don't seem to like them. They find them both uncomfortable. And the facial interface, while a little bit better, they both come with the same, that clothy material. And again, I would replace that also with the silicone material, and I like it much better. I still have the original material here on the MetaQuest 3S, as you guys can see. It's that clothy material, and it's just not something I like compared to that silicone material that I use on the MetaQuest 3S. MetaQuest 3, I should say. Now, the controllers on these headsets are exactly the same. There's no difference between either one of them. They both use one singular battery that they come with in the box. With that AA battery that you put in each one, there's nothing to say about any of these. The controllers are great. They always have been. But they're exactly the same on the MetaQuest 3 and the MetaQuest 3S. So nothing to say about that. Now, the audio is the same on both. You're not going to get better audio quality on one versus the other, but there is something to point out that on the MetaQuest 3S, you still have the 3.5 millimeter jack on the side of the headset here. And unfortunately, on the MetaQuest 3S here, there is no 3.5 millimeter jack. So you're going to have to use a USB-C converter. If you guys are using headphones that use that 3.5 millimeter jack, you can use the USB-C port here on the side and then plug that in. But if you're using a battery strap, for example, or stuff like that, like if you buy the Elite strap, for example, then you're not going to be able to use that USB-C, because that USB-C is used for charger. Unless, of course, if you use the Bobo VR strap that they just came out with, that you can get, which I'll link down below as well. And that, if you have the MetaQuest 3S, actually just came out with the fact that even if you get that strap, they actually give you back that 3.5 millimeter jack. So that's obviously awesome for MetaQuest 3S users. So actually, for me, in my opinion, if you have the MetaQuest 3, I'd recommend the Elite strap, because you don't have to worry about that 3.5 millimeter jack. But if you're getting or have the MetaQuest 3S, I would use the Bobo VR new strap there, in my opinion, and it works great, and it has that 3.5 millimeter jack back for you, so you can not only charge at the same time with that USB-C, but still have that jack back to be able to use headphones. And as far as the mic quality goes, for me, it seems like both of them are pretty much the same as well when it comes to, audio quality, mic quality when you're recording videos or talking in games. I think that's pretty much all the same. So guys, overall, that's all the comparisons as far as the MetaQuest 3 and the MetaQuest 3S. Like I talked about in the beginning, if you're asking for my opinion on this stuff, the MetaQuest 3 is obviously the superior one. If you can save up and get the one that's $500 for 512 gigabytes, not only are you going to get double the storage, but in my opinion, you get double the value out of those $200. So I'd push you to say, if you're going to be serious about VR, get the MetaQuest 3. However, if you're looking to save $200, get the MetaQuest 3S and just get your feet wet into MetaQuest, and you don't want to spend those $200 extra, you're still going to have a really great experience with the MetaQuest 3, especially if you're coming from the MetaQuest Quest 2 and just want to play those games that are now vastly superior in graphics and stuff like that, and we want to be able to keep up, you're going to have a great time doing that on the MetaQuest 3S, and I wouldn't make you feel bad about buying it. You can save $200. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, what I wouldn't recommend you do is getting that $399 model that the MetaQuest 3S has for the 256 gigabyte, because it's just not worth. You're too close to the price of the MetaQuest 3, and you can save another $100. And that would be a much better route, especially if you can get one refurbished and stuff like that and make that price even closer. So the only way I would tell you to get the MetaQuest 3S is if you want to save that money and you get $200 off by getting the one that's 128 gigabytes, because otherwise it doesn't really make any sense in my opinion. I would tell you, hey, save that $100 and get the MetaQuest 3. But hopefully this video helped you guys out, all these comparisons and stuff like that. I'm having a blast, obviously, having the MetaQuest 3 since day one, and now having both of them, I can do a lot more things with it, like co-local multiplayer stuff that you guys know I love to do on this channel. I love local multiplayer. Now having two headsets when friends come over, each one of us can have one on and have fun online, or local multiplayer games and stuff like that, which is super fun. But obviously, my main headset that I use every day is going to be the MetaQuest 3. The MetaQuest 3S for me is a secondary headset that I use when friends come over and we all have a good time and stuff, which is super awesome. Or, of course, if I'm making videos for you guys specifically about the 3S, which a video like this, it's awesome that I have both of these in front of me and I can compare and contrast them for you guys to help you guys make an informed decision. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and you guys got something out of it, and it helps you make a decision on one of these. You can't really go wrong with either one. You're going to have a blast, and if you've never played VR, your mind is going to be blown. I've been at this for a really long time, and obviously I love VR, and that's obviously why this channel started back up a few years ago, was because of VR, even though obviously I do a lot more stuff on this channel than just VR, but still, it's like 50% VR. And I love it. So if you guys have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, or any of these questions about these two headsets, leave those down below. And thank you guys for watching. Until next time.